Hi, I'm Martina Kwan, and welcome to our Daring to Be Different podcast, in which I interview high-achieving individuals. And I'm so excited to introduce you today to my special guest, Shannon Cogan from Kentucky. Thank you so much, and welcome, Shannon.
I am just so happy to see you, to see your face, and to get a chance to talk to you. And you and I have been friends now for 10 years. We met in Miami, and I just love seeing all that you're accomplishing. You are an inspiration to me.
Thank you. You are as well. And you know, we share the same background. We're both Eurasian, and so I'd love to maybe start off by asking you, what was it like growing up? Where did you grow up? How did your parents meet? And tell me a bit about your childhood.
Yeah, so I am half Japanese. My father is Japanese, and he was actually born in Manzanar, which during World War II, they put all of the Japanese, even those who were born in America. My father was born in that internment camp, and I actually visited that location because they have it set up now with a museum, paying tribute to that time in history, which really was not that long ago. And it's unbelievable to think that the government at that time put people who were Americans, but they were Japanese, in a camp behind barbed wire with soldiers standing with guns aiming in. And I went with my grandmother as well, and she was saying that she is such an incredible woman, 98 years old, but she said that she got through it by looking up at the mountains, and she would let the mountains speak to her, and the mountains would give her strength. It was interesting. Her husband came from a very good family. They had a department store in the area where most of the Japanese lived, and they had to sell everything for pennies on the dollar. So it was a very difficult time for him because he came from a family that had a lot to everything being stripped away and having to kind of claw your way back. And she was a huge help. But my father was born there, and my mother is Irish and Swedish. She had, at that time, long blonde hair, and she was a model. And they met in New York City, and then they moved to Chicago, which is where I grew up. So it was interesting having this, and maybe you can relate to this, that people would always say, "Oh, what are you?" They weren't really sure what my nationality was, especially then because, I'm in my late 40s now, but it wasn't that common, when we were growing up to have these relationships sort of like that. But I remember this one time, I was maybe like 6 years old, and we were walking through a carnival, and one of the people who worked there was making calls to my mom and then saying, "How could you be with that Jap?" And that is when I realized that this is, that their relationship was a different, and that then I felt sort of different. And sometimes in school I would have children say things, and I'm so glad that, we're more of an accepting culture now, that we embrace people and their differences and their backgrounds and what they've come from.
Yeah, no, it's not easy growing up Eurasian, because you're kind of not sure. And in my case, which culture do you belong to? So when I was in Hong Kong, I wasn't Chinese enough, or when I was in Germany, I wasn't German enough. So, but I do love America for that, because, it's sort of a melting pot of many different individuals, and I do think our parents were rather courageous, because at the time it was not exactly the norm. So yeah, no, that's great. So
absolutely. Yeah, and I think, also I give my father's parents a lot of credit, because I'm sure that they thought or envisioned that he would marry a Japanese woman to sort of uphold some of the cultures and traditions. But, then also my mother did a wonderful job of embracing that culture. She learned how to make a lot of Japanese dishes, and she signed me up for a Japanese dance class, which I loved, and it was this wonderful teacher in Illinois. So, I think that was so important too, that I knew to respect that culture.
Yeah, no, that's great. And then you went on to become such a high achieving woman. You're a multiple Emmy award winning you know.
Well, and congrats to you. Oh my gosh, that's huge. Amazing.
And now you're the primary anchor for the NBC affiliate in Louisville, Kentucky. I mean, you've achieved so much, you know, and in Miami as well. And, you know, just following your career, it's been pretty incredible. So
Well,
what made you so, you know, you seemed pretty determined early on, you know, and knew exactly sort of what you wanted to do. How did you come to journalism and your career that you wanted to choose?
well, I always loved reading and I always loved to write. But initially I thought, oh, I should be a doctor, which I would have been a really horrible doctor because I'm not good at science and math. And but so I was a freshman in college and I met a professor who suggested that I might want to look into journalism because of my background. And then I had an internship with one of the top investigative reporters in the country. And I fell in love with journalism, and especially initially I thought, well, maybe I'll write for a newspaper. But then when you see the TV side and the deadlines, and I strive off of, I love that. Like I have to, you know, be there at 1:30, do something at this time. I have this much time to do it. I love that pressure. And so, you know, with TV newscasters, we start off usually in a very small market. So my first job was in Terre Haute, graduated from college, and I was making $14,000 before taxes. So not, you know, a big income at that time, but you work your way up. And so you know, I was in Miami, which is a top 20 market. It's a very large city. And I was at this position, Martina, in my life where I had twin boys. And I thought, well, I could either keep going up to a larger market or move to a network, or I had a person reach out to me from the station I'm at now in Louisville and asked to meet with me when I came here over Christmas. And it was saying, you can go home for your dinner. You can have a dinner break. I care about families. I know that that's the most important thing. So I had to really decide what was I going to do, because I didn't want to be that parent who only saw my kids in the morning for 30 minutes and then that was it. So I kind of took I took a different route in my career by going back down in markets. But it's been the best move. You know, something, so I'm so in awe of you because I feel like you're always achieving and reaching for the next goal. Like, what can I accomplish next? And I think that for a lot of us around our age, and you know, your kids kind of take over your life and your time. And you might be at a place like I am where I'm like, you know, this is my job and I'm happy with it. So it's sort of a weird position where you're like, what do I strive for next?
Yeah.
And I think that's a tough question.
Yeah, and I think, you know, a lot of women struggle through that, you know, especially for me, my career was everything. And I had my two daughters who are now 14 and 16 rather late towards, you know, the end of my 30s. And, you know, at some point as a mom and working mom, we have to make a decision. You know, sometimes it is a choice between, okay, we could achieve, you know, that much more, but how important is it really? You know, so I think, you know, having the whole life balance is really important. And especially, you know, when our kids, they need us, you know, they really do, you know, especially now in this time and having the homeschooling and, you know, so I think it's really important to be there and to be cooking for them and, you know, just having a sense of family. So tell us about your boys. So they were born in Miami.
They were born in Miami, and my husband and I tried for a while to have children. And, you know, I was so focused on my career that I didn't really think about it. And then all of a sudden one day I was like, I really want kids. And then it wasn't so easy to get pregnant. And I was like, well, you know, so it took us a few years, and so they were born in Miami in 2008, and I had a C-section. They were really big kids. Kate was almost 8 pounds. Colt was almost 7. And so it was thrilling and exciting. And then it was also a huge emotional time because we learned that my one little boy had a heart condition. And so he needed emergency open heart surgery when he was only 2 days old. So it was a 5-hour surgery on a heart that's the size of a walnut. And, you know, so it was so many emotions, and your hormones are going crazy, and you're sitting in there in the hospital. So the surgery went well, but then several weeks later, he had a cardiac arrest when I was there with him. And so for 20 minutes, he was gone, and they had to revive him. They had to reopen his chest. They had to put him on this ECMO machine. And they came out, the doctor, this wonderful doctor I'm so grateful for, he said, well, he's alive, but it's 50-50 on what his condition will be. He could recover, or he might just be in a vegetative state. So I've been so aggressive. You know, I'm an aggressive person in my career, with making friends, like, you know, I like you, I want to be your friend. And it's been a blessing that I've been aggressive with Colt, with his doctors, because he's walking, he's talking, he does have some brain damage. So he goes to a school for kids with some learning differences, but he's so funny. He's so creative. He does have hearing loss, so he wears hearing aids, but I mean, he's doing so well. And his brother it's been interesting because now they're at the point where his brother just sort of accepted the differences, that his brother is very competitive in sports. And now he's been sort of asking some things like, if that didn't happen to Colt, do you think he would play soccer? And do you think he would like the things that I like? So it's been interesting, but it's such a, you know, it's having that situation with Colt. And I've never been a very patient person. Like, I want something, I do it. And it has just really, it's like God said, you know, you need to learn how to be patient, and you need those tools. And this is going to help you learn that. And it makes me appreciate life and the time, and to understand where to put my value, what's important.
No, that's great. So probably moving back to Louisville was a great idea. I mean, Miami is rather fast paced, and, you know, how do you like living in Louisville?
Well, I would remember like living in Miami and thinking, oh, I need to go to the dry cleaner and the grocery store. And that would kind of stress you out, right? Because of the traffic, and people honk their horns. Like if you say, you know, 1 second too long at a light, so it's a much easier, simpler life. The cost of living obviously is huge. So, you know, when I talk to young people today, and, you know, I'm always like, well, you know, it's a balance of you have to look at your whole life. It's a balance. Is it important to you that you have family close by? And my husband was one of 9 kids, and 6 of the siblings live in town. So it's my niece, my godchild, is coming over for dinner tonight. You know, all these special moments that I wouldn't typically be able to have if we didn't come back here.
Yeah, no, that's lovely. And your mom doesn't live too far away either, right?
Well, you know what, Martina is so cool. She just moved here last week.
Oh,
Yeah, right. So at this moment, she's living in our house, which has been great, because normally I get home after the 6 o'clock newscast before I go back for the late news, and I frantically cook up something for dinner. And now she's like, well, I'll take care of dinner. How great is that?
That's amazing. Tell us a little bit about your job. What does a news anchor do?
So my job it's one of these jobs that, and I tell young people, because they think, oh, you're just on TV, and like, that's so cool. And it is a full-time job, and you have to you have to be obsessed with the news. You know, I don't drive around listening to music. I listen to the news. You have to read all of the time. And I'm always working. Like, the first thing, you know, I'm going through a million emails. I'm responding to requests for interviews and all these things. And then, and I anchor a lot of newscasts. I do the 3, the 5, the 6. So it's a lot. And then I go back and do the 11. But it's I don't get every holiday off. I usually work on Thanksgiving. When most people are in bed in their pajamas watching Netflix, I'm at work putting on more makeup. So, it's a job that you have to have such passion for because it does take up so much of your time.
Yeah, which can be rather addictive, that adrenaline rush and, having to, there's a time limit, just like in racing, right?
Right. Right. Well, I wish I could somehow figure out a way. And, the social media has really changed our lives so much. And then I know it's important to connect with people. But I get my daily update on how long I've been on the phone, and it is disturbing, like 5.5 hours a day.
Wow.
Like, it's so depressing. Yeah. There's a way I could try to curtail that to reclaim some of my hours.
So tell us about last month in terms of COVID. What happened?
Yes, well, it's been an interesting time, and I'll be honest, I was really worried about someone in my family getting it because my son, with his heart history, he also has lung issues, and I was terrified. I went through so many precautions. I worked at home for a little bit in my basement with a studio. But we had so many technical problems. And then one day I woke up and I was like, I have either strep throat or a sinus infection. But then as that day progressed, I was like, this is definitely the coronavirus that I somehow got from someone. And so I went and got tested and it was positive. And so I was in bed for the first week. It really does, for those people who haven't had it, and everyone is different, which is so odd. But for me, I was sleeping so much. But I think also at that time, Kendall's mother had just passed away, my husband. My mother was selling her home and moving here. I was working so many hours because we've had some protests in the city. My kids were at home. So I think I was just worn out. Mm-hmm. Even though I take vitamins, I take good care of myself, I work out, I was exhausted. So, but then the second week was much better, and my kids never got it. My husband never got it, which is shocking. So I watched a lot of TV shows and read books, and actually it wasn't that horrible.
I was going to say it was probably a nice reprieve, a little rest, doesn't hurt anyone, right?
Right. And I'm always that person who, if I'm sick, I'll still push through. But with this, you can't. It's a CDC guideline. You have to stay home.
Yeah. Yeah. So, which is actually a godsend in some ways, right?
Yes. So true. Yeah. I mean, I couldn't go to the grocery store or couldn't do a lot of things.
So do you have any after effects? Are you still fatigued, or is everything back to normal?
Well, I'm still fatigued, but I think that's just being a mom, being a working mom. We just don't get enough rest and enough sleep. But no, I think other than that, I'm good. So many people brought us these delicious food, like, sausage, rice casserole, lasagna, enchiladas. I was eating a lot. But so maybe I have some weight gain. That's an after effect.
Yeah, that's great. One thing I love about Kentucky, by the way, is the Kentucky Derby. So can you tell us a little bit about your yearly?
So this year it was very, very different because typically the Derby happens in May and there are more than 100,000 people there, and it's big hats, bright colors, lots of mint juleps, and they moved the date to the first Saturday in September. They thought they were going to allow some spectators, but then they had to decide no spectators. So there were some people allowed there, and those were people who owned the horses or horse trainers. Mm-hmm. And I'm very fortunate. One of my best friends who I met in Louisville many years ago, she was a morning anchor too, that she actually is married to Bob Baffert. You've actually met her, yeah. My friend Jill. Yeah, so I did anchor from the first turn, which is the first turn where the horses go by the track. And then I was able to meet them for the actual Derby race and watch it with them, and their horse, Authentic, won. So it was really thrilling. It's such an interesting uh, industry. And, I know that there is some controversy in some places like California, but I see how these horses are treated. I mean, they are treated as if they're royalty, and the stables are so clean. Any sort of injury, they get looked at right away. That's my belief from what I have seen and from what I've heard the trainers talking about with the horses too. They put the horses first. But it is such a fun time. You're going to have to come one year.
I know, I would love to. Yeah, I mean, you know that I love horses, and the Kentucky Derby is one thing that I've always, definitely wanted to go to. Now, I saw there was a dog behind you in the window for a while. Tell us about.
I have a very special dog. Would you like to meet her?
Yes.
Let me have her come over. Wink. Come here. Wink here. Come here. This is a very special dog. Wink, lap. Can you say hi? Say hi, everyone. She is so sweet. So her name is Wink, and she is specially bred in California, actually, at the facility for Canine Companions for Independence. My son received her in August. Now, Colt is at school today, so Wink is here. She normally is sitting up in his bedroom, like, when he's not there, just bored, and where's my boy? But she's helped him with all of his therapies. When he does physical therapy, she assists, like he'll do a plank over her. She helps him get things, which helps with his speech because she knows 50 commands. She sleeps with him. She gives him so much confidence when we go out in public. She goes and people want to talk to Colt and want to meet Wink, and he is forced to engage. So she's so wonderful. We're so lucky. We had to go to Ohio, where Canine Companions has a facility for 2 weeks to get trained. And that was really fun, actually.
That's so great. Is there a waiting list to get a dog?
So we were on the waiting list for 2 years.
Wow.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So they had some that were matched with children and some with adults. And you have to fill out a lot of questionnaires. Doctors have to fill out the questionnaires. And you have to go in person for an in-person interview. I mean, these dogs they're so smart and they're so well trained that it's like basically getting like a $25,000 dog because of all of their training. But Canine Companions is the oldest service dog organization in the country, and unlike other organizations, you don't pay to get these dogs. So Colt he's going to be doing a painting to try to raise some money for Canine Companions and some other things.
That's so great. So how has your life changed with Wink?
Oh my goodness. She has given my son so much confidence, and he used to always want a stuffed animal, and now Wink is that stuffed animal. And we, my son Cade is in a lot of sports. So a lot of our weekends are spent at soccer games. And now Colt has a friend who's right by his side all of the time because she's allowed to go everywhere with us. Mm-hmm. So it's been really great. She's a wonderful, I didn't know how great it was going to be. Mm-hmm. And I'll be honest, I thought, well, Colt can walk. He's not in a wheelchair. And there were other children who were in a wheelchair, and I thought, am I taking a dog away from a child who is in a wheelchair who could use it more? But now I see the benefits, how immense and how incredible they have been to him, and without a doubt, we made the right decision.
That's so wonderful. It's heartwarming to see, and that the boys get along as well. And
yes,
yeah, you seem very happy.
Well, thank you.
So, thank you so much for being here. And what I think a lot of women especially would like to know is if you could look back on your life and give yourself advice in terms of becoming successful, what would that be?
Well, I think, a big thing is that we have to be kind to ourselves. And I think especially when you're younger, and I would beat myself up a lot. Like, why did I do this? Why did I make this mistake? Or, I should have taken that job. And instead of just having sort of strength in your own belief and listening to your gut to know what you should do, and to believe that you know what's best for you, and to take care of yourself. There's so many people who are willing to say negative things and be mean and look down upon you. And it would be very easy to listen to those things. And, and I'm still working on it, to be honest. I think, we're all very sensitive. I just read Elton John's memoir, which is fascinating, by the way, but he talks about how he's where he is now. His father is long past, and he's still working to get his father's recognition. So, I think that's just human nature, but I think that you could save yourself a lot of heartache by just listening to your gut and just be kind to yourself.
No, that's excellent advice. No, thank you so much for being here and on the Daring to Be Different podcast. And, that's what it's about. You were saying with the getting your parents' approval, it's really about being yourself in life. And to be secure enough to be different and to be strong and secure with whatever you choose to do. It's not about them. It's about what we want to do in order to achieve happiness.
Yes. And I think, by the way, what you have done with, being on that horse, that beautiful horse, and envisioning your life, that I just think that your two girls are so lucky to have you as a role model, to see my mom wanted happiness. She wasn't feeling like it was quite there, and so she went for it. And I mean, they probably don't say it to you, but when they're older, or what they're going to tell their children about you, and everything that you've done, for sure.
No, thank you. And same with you and your boys. So thank you so much for being here. It was really lovely talking to you, and hope to see you in person soon.
Me too. We'll come to the Derby.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Martina.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.